Hello. Hi, everybody. We are just thrilled here at Texas Heritage to have all of you here this evening. We are blessed to know our presenter, as many of you can understand why I say that. Beautiful, loving people. But first of all, let me just say again, thank you for being here at Texas Heritage. Thank you, Willomes, for choosing us to release this new wonderful book. So, my husband Billy's here. I don't see him here very often. He's usually on Austin Street working at State Farm. So, Billy.
Hey, Billy.
Marty Perkins has been with us since the beginning, and she's back there pouring some wine that the Willomes have so graciously bought for y'all to enjoy tonight. There's some snacks back there too. My name is Susan Johnson. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker so she can talk to y'all tonight. And the Willomes hail from Waco, not too far up the road. I think they're probably big Bear fans. I wouldn't know that because they wear green here every Sunday in the fall, but big Baylor Bear fans. She worked for a brief stint at Magnolia in Waco. I think that makes you kind of semi-famous, right? Everybody knows that place at least. She also served as an editor while she was up in that area. Since moving to Fredericksburg, she has done freelance writing. She writes for Rock and Vine, and I just pulled the edition that we have. I hear the new one came out today, but this article written by Megan. So if you get this in the Fredericksburg Standard, so look for her name in there. She's a contributing writer to the Fredericksburg Standard Radio Post as well as the magazine. This is Megan's second book, as I understand it. I'm sorry, fourth book. Shows you what I know. This is Megan's fourth book, and I don't know if any of you have ever aspired to be a writer, but it's hard. It's hard to get those words out and make them on the page like you feel them. But I really believe that this lady has a gift for doing that. So she supports her husband John, that we all know and love, a Good Samaritan. Such good works for so many people. So we just couldn't be happier and feel more joyful about having Megan Willome here on her birthday to present her new book.
Well, I wanted to start by thanking Billy and Susan for having us. We've been members here, I don't know how long, John, a couple of years?
A few,
but what we like to do is come out on Sunday afternoons. They have music Friday evenings, which we usually can't come to, but we like to come on Sundays. And there's usually a live Texas artist right there in the corner. And I get some wine, and John brings his tea because he doesn't drink, and Susan and Billy don't care. And we go sit down on the bottom deck and talk and listen to music. So they are an important part of our enjoyment of Fredericksburg. Thank you all for being here. This means so much to me. I just see Ryan back there. Hi. There's so many different parts of my life here. We've been here 19 years, and this just means a lot. So thank you. For my Wellness Center peeps, that's where this book starts. Who used to go to Brandon Quay's boot camp when on Fridays we would go to the high school track? Yes, okay. So does anyone remember we had a short period when both Father Enda from Ireland and Father Chris from Poland would join us? Father Chris from Poland would run really, really fast because he was young. Father Enda did not. So I would walk around the track with Father Enda, and we would talk, and it was really precious. And he knew that I was a writer, and he knew at that time, this is about 10 years ago, and we were going through some real bad stuff in our family, and he said, I won't try to do his accent, but he would say, are you writing poems about your troubles? And I said, no, I don't want to think about it. And he said, well, what are you writing about? And I said, well, I'm writing poems about nature, about trees and flowers and hikes. And he said, which usually if you ever knew Father Enda, meant maybe you should think about doing more. So I literally went home the day after that conversation. We took, as a family, almost every vacation to Estes Park, Colorado, to Rocky Mountain National Park. And so I have lots and lots of patches of our hikes. And I started writing poems from every single hike we had ever taken.
Whoa.
A few of those ended up in the book, not very many because a lot of them were not worthy, but it was the beginning of me exploring how to write about things, how to write about troubles and good things and bad things through the lens of hiking, which is, anytime you do a hike, it's about a seek, it's about a quest. You know, maybe you're going to a mountaintop, maybe you're going to see a lake, maybe it's just I want to hit a certain goal. You know, I want to get that patch. It's about seeking. And so that's what these poems are about. They're about longing and seeking. So the title of the book is Love and Other Mysteries. If you've heard me talk about it, the love poems are inspired by Song of Solomon, and the mysteries are inspired by the mysteries of the rosary, which are 20 stories from the Bible about Jesus. So as most of y'all know, I was not raised Catholic. I came into the Catholic Church in 2012. My mom died in 2010, and I had a spiritual midlife crisis. Most people have an affair or buy a sports car. I went Catholic. But for a long time, I was really resistant on Mary. I was really resistant on the rosary. I knew how to do it, but it wasn't really part of my life. Then, tragedy struck, as you all know, in Uvalde in 2022. There was a shooting. And, I don't know her last name, Lucille at St. Mary's that runs Ave Maria Hospice. Do y'all know who that is? Anyway, Lucille organized that fall a group of parents to pray the rosary for the first 22 days of school for those families. She knew a teacher that had been killed. 22, that includes the shooter. And that's when I knew these are my people. These are my people. So we gathered for 22 days, and these people taught me how to pray the rosary, and that's why it's very important to me. A couple weeks ago, we had the first Fredericksburg Book Festival. I don't know if anyone was able to go.
Yeah.
It was really fantastic. If you didn't go, please go next year. I went to hear one of my favorite living poets who lives in San Antonio. Her name is Naomi Shihab-Nye. And I'm going to start with reading from a book that she compiled from a writer from Uvalde. Her name is Anne Alejandro. And I think this will explain what I'm doing in my book. Because all of us have mysteries in our lives. We have things that we don't understand. And a lot of them are joyful and sorrowful at the same time. And Anne explains this really well in a paragraph that is something we can all, as Texans in the whole country, identify with, which is this phenomenon that when the bluebonnets come out, it's also when the rattlesnakes come out, right? We all know this. So here's what Anne writes. In March, the bluebonnets will be glorious. So you must come, but in snake boots, because they emerge furious and snapping in teeming hordes from dens on exactly March 6th. We can roast marshmallows and listen to the multitudinous bands of coyotes, and we will have no armor. We will await the purpose of the day, and though we nearly miss it, the purpose of the day is watch, listen, learn. That's my job as a poet, is to watch and to listen and to learn and to take the things in our lives that are both bluebonnets and rattlesnakes at the same time. So the first poem I'm going to read is from one of those Colorado hikes. It's called Bierstadt Lake. This is a hike we've taken a couple of times. This is in the Glorious Mysteries section under the Resurrection. This is a poem about marriage. Anyone who's been married longer than 5 minutes knows that it's hard. So that's what this poem is about. Bierstadt Lake, Rocky Mountain National Park. My wedding ring, sir, last seen at Bierstadt Lake, where I took off my glove to eat a burrito, my bad, and oops, my ring came off with it. I have no faith it'll be found after we stumbled over our snowshoes, following orange flags until the parking lot appeared, finally. Ma'am, says the heron of a man presiding above the visitor center desk, a man too tall and too young to know anything of nuptials. After the snow melts, you wouldn't believe how these things reveal themselves. High summer, the nativity of St. John the Baptist. The priest of the visitor center rings me up. Ma'am, things always turn up when you stop expecting. Aww. All right. So the poems, I've told people whenever you buy a book from me, I give away this little booklet from Ascension Press on how to pray the rosary, which is based on all the scriptures that the mysteries come from, so that you can just spend time in each of those. And yeah, so I'm gonna do my one for the Ascension, but it is modeled on a poem by Robert Frost that you probably all know because you learned it in elementary school or middle school, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. So, as a poet, I read a lot of poetry. I also memorize poetry because I think it's really important to get those words and those rhythms in your mind. So I'm going to recite Robert Frost, and then I'm going to read mine based on the Ascension because you'll see how they go together. And if you ever try to imitate a good poet, you'll realize how good they are and how much more complicated they are than you actually think. So, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. But I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Okay. So I modeled my poem for the Ascension on that poem because this may sound strange, but I've always found the Ascension kind of sad because on one hand, Jesus is leaving. And yes, I know the Holy Spirit is coming in a few days, but I still feel sad every year when it comes up. I also noticed for the first time when I was working on this poem, if you read the account of the Ascension in Acts 1, that Mary is there in Acts 14. So she's in the poem as well. Waiting for the Spirit after a Sabbath's journey. We made the long walk back to town. The dirt was cracked and dry and brown. The mountain we could scarce conceive, our hesitating hearts cast down. Before he left, he said, "Don't leave. The Spirit you will soon receive." And then he rose into the air. "Wait, be filled," he said. "Believe." Angels came, but I felt bare. Why look up? No hope, just prayer. He's gone. How long? And no goodbye. I stared at my shoe. I did not dare to raise my eyes back up to sky. We waited in the room up high. His mother's tales, they made us cry. His mother's tales, they made us cry. So those are the mystery poems. What's up with the love poems? Megan, you're 54. You're way too old to be writing love poems. And you're right, because I didn't write love poems when I was in high school or college like most people do. What happened? So what happened, and I know I have a Knight of Columbus here, after I learned how to pray the rosary with that Uvalde group, I picked up a little booklet that's in the back of St. Mary's from Knights of Columbus called A Scriptural Rosary for the Family. And so for every mystery, it's got 10 Bible verses for you to pray. So since I was Protestant for 41 years, I'm like, yeah, I want this. But I was really confused because there are all these Song of Solomon verses in here. And I thought, I don't know what those are doing. That's really weird. So in 2023, at my birthday, I took a trip to Wyoming. I have family in Jackson Hole. And so I gave myself a little writer's retreat. So in the morning, I would spend time poeming my way through Song of Solomon, and then I would meet my cousins at noon or so for lunch, and we'd hang out, and I'd get to play with them, and then my little bitty cousins through dinner. So it was literally one of the best vacations of my life. We had a picnic on my birthday. It was 6 degrees when we started. We had a fire, we had white wine in the snow, we had potato chips and dark chocolate and salad that got really crunchy. And we stayed until it hit 0, and then we went in. But the kids were fine because they're Wyoming kids. So anyway, that's where these love poems started. Song of Solomon is an odd book. It is ancient, erotic love poetry. Like, I'm not going to read it because some of it is a little, clutch your pearls, right? But this was a really important book, especially to the early church. And a lot of sermons used to be preached on it. They would talk about Christ in the church. So I have a lot of poems in my book that I call He Said, She Said, because that's how Song of Solomon works. You have the bridegroom talk, and then you have the beloved. And they go back and forth, and sometimes it's not exactly clear who's talking. So, I'm going to read one of my poems. I'm just going to give a shameless plug here. As Susan said, I work for The Standard. I work for Rock and Vine. I work for Art Guide. There's a new dining guide. I'm always surprised when people tell me they don't take the paper because there are so many gifts in our local paper. So one of them is this. I was having trouble with the 6th chapter of Songs. I had written a sonnet, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty much like what a freshman English teacher would say, here, you need to write a sonnet. Here's how you do it, and it sucked. It was just so bad. It was so self-consciously a sonnet. So I put it away, and I'm like, okay, I need to write another love poem, but I don't know what to do. We'd eaten dinner. I opened my local paper to the police report, which I read, and this was the headline. Man steals heart, no charges filed. Oh. And I went back in my study and I wrote this poem, and it's hardly changed. So, this is a He Said, She Said poem. So I'll go back and forth. He strolls into my store, takes his time, ever browsing, never buying. Did you make all this? Yep. You know what they say, creativity is next to godliness. I heard it cleanliness. That's a bad translation. This place of yours, so beautiful and sad. I'm waiting for someone. All this is for them. That's daunting. Have they come? Not yet, but I'm making something new. This is the one. They'll lay down their arms and come. With arms, you can dance as well as fight. I guess. It takes a lot of arrows to create the way you do. That's not exactly the kind of love I was going for. Please, sir, avert your eyes. They unsettle me. You want what you can't have, so you want something else you can't have either. He palms a heart-shaped rock, winks. I'll take this. Then strolls out the door, adding, hey, tonight there's a dance up on the mountain, a whole wedding. Want to come? I follow. Leave my beloveds on the shelves, press no charges, only his hand. And so, once I started writing love poems, I couldn't stop. And I'm still doing them. So this is a short one. This is called Snow White, and it's about Snow White, the grimmest fairy tale that we all know. This is in her voice. I knew what I was doing, walking a tightrope strung between men and apples. I only wanted true love's taste on my tongue. Okay, almost done. So, as several of y'all know, I'm a cantor at St. Mary's, which means I get to sing. I also fill in sometimes at Stonewall at St. Francis Xavier. And one of the things that a cantor does is sing the psalm, which is call and response. And so starting a couple of years ago after that retreat to Wyoming, through a friendship with another poet friend, we started poeming the Psalms together. So every week that I sing, I write a poem for the psalm. And it's very much in the spirit of this, where I'm bringing my story to what I'm finding in Scripture. So I have a bunch of Psalms now. So there are 4 in the book. This is from the joyful section. This is Psalm 145, which is one of those very, very joyful ones. And I have this commentary, this book called Psalms in the Sunday Lectionary that I really like, A, because it's short, and B, because it doesn't explain anything. It talks about how things work, which as a writer, that's what I want to know. I don't want to know what it means. I want to know how it works. So for Psalm 145, it made the point that the word all comes up 9 times. And I thought, well, I can beat that. So this is called All. And this is, again, me marrying those snakes and bluebonnets. Because the joyful things in my life and the sorrowful things, they're all bound up together. I can't separate them. And I think that's what we find as we get older, right? So this is my all. For all the church, all the books, all the lazy Sunday afternoons, all the psalms, all the friends, all the calls, all the messages, and all the coffee dates, and all our dark morning walks. For these sins as opposed to others, for all the graces I can scarcely tell, and even then, not all. For all the poems pouring out after all that rain, for all the yeses to my work, and even the no's when it wasn't all right. How all the things I don't know how to write about become all the poems. For summer's tiny wildflowers, for every red wing, for cactus all over these hills, even in drought, and all their prickly pear gold. For every mass, all the hours of adoration, when all I could do was weep. For all the prayers answered, and all the ones where you slept all night, but slept right here in my bed, and bid me rest, and all the ways a storm rouses our blood and bids our bodies get up and come outside and inhale all the charged molecules. For hip bones, how my thorn pains me all the time, whichever way I bend, and for lace and every $3 sundress from St. Vinny's, for a rocking chair bought when I was first pregnant that still cradles all of me, for all the snowflakes at my birthday picnic, and obviously all the dogs, for all my saints, you know who you are, for all angels who sing along, for bread, wine, and all I do not understand, for every word of pink story ever raveling into a beautiful shield fit for all that meets me today. So thank you for being here, and I thought I would close with a song that we all know. I was really blessed, the 3 people that wrote blurbs for the back of the book. The first one is from a poet named Lori Klein that you probably don't know, but you probably know a little chorus that she wrote called I Love You, Lord. So I was going to start it. I figure most of you know it, and I thought we could all sing it together. Okay? I love